Myths about King Saint Stephen, King of Hungary, 1000 to 1038. King Stephen of Hungary, Stephen I, Saint Stephen, King Saint Stephen, is recognised by other European countries as Hungary's first king. After his father Géza died, initially Stephen, or István in Hungarian, claimed the title of Fejedelem, usually translated in English as Grand Prince or Grand Duke. This claim was based on being his father's son, but this was contrary to the Magyar tradition of seniority and caused conflict. He was later crowned as king in probably late 1000 Common Era or early 1001 by Pope Sylvester II, with Emperor Otto III's consent. It is this that other European countries acknowledged. Stephen always asserted his sovereignty and never accepted he was ruled by either the Pope or the Emperor. Hungary was independent, and Stephen ruled alone, quote, by the will of God, unquote. Scholars argue about many details. His year of birth is anywhere between 967 and 975. He was born in Esztergom or not. He was baptized soon after birth or just before his father's death. Even the exact date of his coronation is in dispute. There is a lot that is uncertain about Stephen's history, but there are also popular myths that are just plain wrong. Stephen, father of the royal Hungarian dynasty. Many people believe that later Hungarian kings were descended from Stephen. If not all, then at least a fair bunch of them. But it is not so. Stephen and his wife, Bajor Gisela the Bavarian, had several children, but only one is known to have made it to adulthood, Prince Imre. Sadly, he died at the age of just 24, reportedly in an accident while hunting wild boar. At that time, Imre was married, but the legend had it that he had taken a vow of chastity to preserve the virginity of his wife. True or not, the marriage produced no children. Although no Hungarian kings were descended from Stephen, 23, including Stephen himself, were descended from Árpád, who was the leader of the Magyars at the time of the conquest. Árpád was Stephen's great-great-grandfather. So no, Stephen was not the father of a royal dynasty. A Christian king from a Christian country. It would be reasonable to assume that over the century they had been in Europe, influenced by their neighbours and those pesky missionaries, the Hungarians converted to Christianity, and their king Stephen just happened to be Christian. Nothing could be further from the truth. When Stephen became king, the Hungarians were still mostly pagan, following the religion of their ancestors. His own father Géza was a nominal Christian, in that he had been baptized and went through the motions, but continued his pagan practices, saying that he was important enough to be able to serve more than one god. So why bring Stephen up Christian? Have him baptized. Marry him to the very devout sister of the Holy Roman Emperor. It is believed it can be traced back to the disastrous loss at the Battle of Lechfeld in 965. At this stage, Stephen's grandfather Tokshain became ruler, and the Magyars' adventuring days were over. The conversion to Christianity served two purposes. It carried favour with the European powers, and it weakened the Magyars' tribal allegiances. But while his father and grandfather did this by making economic changes which rewarded supporting princes, or settlement, all supported by foreign knights, Stephen took it much further. He established bishoprics and village churches, passed laws forcing church tithing and Christian observances, such as church attendance on Sundays. Those that resisted could face economic or fatal consequences. So no, at the time that he was crowned, Hungary was far from being a Christian country. Saintly Stephen, Stephen the Kind. These days, when we think of a saint, we think of someone who is kind and follows the love your neighbour philosophy. Francis of Assisi or Mother Teresa. But instead, Stephen was known for his cruelty. Even before he was crowned king, he killed and quartered his rival and relative, compagno, and sent parts of his body to be displayed as a warning to others. Another relative, Tozumbo, a pagan chieftain, was buried alive. Stephen blinded his cousin Vashu for the crime of being an Eastern Orthodox Christian instead of a Western one like himself. He also had hot lead poured into his ears so he could never challenge his power. So the jeweller of Transylvania probably got off lightly, being imprisoned and his family exiled. It wasn't a good idea to be related to Stephen, but his subjects also didn't have an easy time. Those not of the upper class were forced into slavery. The king not only controlled their lives, but their dead bodies, which were to be interred in church grounds, which helped stamp out ancestor worship. And relentlessly he fought against the foe, not other nation states, but rather the intrinsic paganism of the Magyar. This battle was fought not only with platoons of German soldiers, but with invited clergy and the dilution of the Magyar with Christian Slavs. By today's standards, Stephen was anything but kind, saintly or fair. The crown of St. Stephen. Finishing on a lighter note, the Holy Crown of Hungary, also known as the Crown of St. Stephen, was named in honour of St. Stephen. St. Stephen never wore it, as it was made decades after his death during the reign of the Hungarian king Bela III. In contrast, the coronation mantle, which can be seen in the National Museum in Budapest, rather than in the Parliament where the rest of the regalia is on display, was with all certainty made about 1031, although how much of it was actually embroidered by Queen Gisela is up for debate. On it, though, is a portrait of St. Stephen, wearing quite a different crown. Similarly, the coronation sceptre can be dated to the time of St. Stephen, just not the crown. I hope you've learnt something from this video and enriched your knowledge of Hungarian history, both what is accepted as true and what is known to be myth. Consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel. And if you have other topics for me to consider, feel free to add them in the comments below.